You know, Mr. Shaw is coming with me to Uganda when I next visit, and I'm so looking forward to him meeting some of these children. That little boy will stand up and he will tell you what has happened to him, and you will see the joy in his face, that he now has a lovely home and he is well cared for. We have to make sure our children are well cared for. We even have their feet measured for shoes. You know, you can go to the markets and buy shoes, but we make sure we measure their feet, they have a proper pair of shoes. It is their right. If we're going to care for them, they have to be well looked after. But it is the children of the rubbish dumps that my heart really aches. You know, I think my heart aches all the time, really, because I see so much. I see so much poverty, so much despair, so much pain, so much suffering. But the children on the streets. There is a boy there, you can see him, standing in the rubbish dumps. He was so handsome, and I wanted to take his photo. But he said, no, I'm dirty, I smell. I don't want your people to see me. And I said, but I want to go back and talk for children like you, so that we can give you hope, we can give you a better future. I asked him if he'd like to come and live in our new building. We have a brand new building, which Aim for Change has put up for street children. He said, I don't know if I can. I've lived in the rubbish for 7 years. 7 years. Living in the rubbish dumps. Something else we cannot comprehend. He asked me where I was staying, what hotel. Oh, he laughed. Obviously this is through interpretation, but he said to me, we wait for the rubbish from your hotel. It is the best rubbish. And yes, we smile at that. But you know, really it's nothing to smile about. I smile often when I want to cry. Needless to say, that night I couldn't eat in the hotel. And then I thought afterwards maybe I should have just had my food and taken the plate down and given it to him. There is so much pain and suffering in this world of ours. Now, for the children that we care in the orphanage, you have supported them in the sense, I don't know if you remember my report, my first report after you gave us the £30,000 grant. And we bought many mosquito nets for our children in the orphanage. They all had a new one. They have beds, triple bunk beds, and you can buy these fantastic mosquito nets that come from the ceiling right the way down over all the children. And I was able to buy those from you. We also began a vitamin program, and I know in my report I said that when your allocation, or the allocation I had made for that part of the work, was over, we would continue with that. But then I realised there was a better way in which we could continue, and we now buy them eggs, and we now buy oranges, and we buy fresh milk. They only ever have powdered milk normally. But we're now buying fresh milk, and that stems from the vitamin. And I think that's a great way that we can move on further to do more for the children. You know, it's all very well just giving them a vitamin. That's quite easy, isn't it? Taking a tablet out of a pot. But how much nicer to give them an orange. So every month now we buy a couple of sacks of oranges and something like 140 eggs and gallons of fresh milk, along with their other staple diet that we provide. You also provided for them the special spray. So now every month we spray the orphanage. When the children are all out, we spray it. Malaria is rampant, and many, many people die of malaria. The percentage is high. When I was last there in the hospital, there was a young mother, I doubt she was any more than 18, and she was sitting on the floor, holding her dead child. She was with her mother and her grandmother. You know, I knelt down by her side, and through interpretation she said, if only we had mosquito nets. They can't afford them. Maybe they can buy the cheap ones. You can buy a cheap one maybe for £2, which is about 6,000 shillings. But that would feed them for several days. so a mosquito net wouldn't be that important. That child may not have lived. I'm not saying that child would have lived. It may not have lived. There are many complications that also come with having malaria, especially in children and babies. Do you know every few seconds, statistics vary, but between 6 and 10 seconds, a baby or a young child will die? And the highest percentage of that is because of malaria. You imagine I've been talking here for about 10 minutes almost. Think of the number of children that have died in that time. You know, it's frightening. This is why when, Mr. Shaw rang me up to say, oh, guess what, you're going to have a grant. Mosquito nets were one of the most important things I thought that we could buy. We bought many, many hundreds of them, but we bought very good quality and we bought pre-treated. And many of them are still going. They're still being in use now. In one area, we worked either with a church or a local area. We try and bring local leaders, local chiefs, and also a church leader together. In the bush, of course, you've just got your little mud church and you've only got very small amounts of people. But we bring their leader together with the local chief so that whatever we do, it works for the whole community. Now, there's one man, I sometimes speak in his church, and he has a very large church. They're very poor, but there's about 3,000 people there. And I gave him 150 mosquito nets. Now, he could have used them for his own people. And I thought that's what he would do. But he didn't. He got some of his women together. They all had to bring in cleaning fluid. He got 2 doctors and he asked them to get hold of as much medication as they could from their hospital. And he took those people and those mosquito nets out into the community and they cleaned up a slum area. They went into homes. They cleaned the homes, but then they gave them a mosquito net. There was so much joy when that project was going on. And I felt so thrilled because, first of all, that grant had come from you. Then it came through us. I was able to pass it on to someone else. He didn't use it for himself. He used it for other people. What a spin-off effect your grant has had on the work that we do. The other area of children we look after are refugee children. I work in the refugee camps. And my first visit to a camp, it was horrific. I know we see these pictures on the television, but unless you're there, unless you see the poverty, you cannot believe. Where you're walking round amongst the sewerage, amongst slops, anything, babies lying, dying. I remember the first baby I picked up and held it, and the local chief, he said to me, leave it, it's very sick. And I said, well, where are the parents? Oh, they are anywhere, it's left there to die. We don't even do that to an animal, let alone a child, a little baby. How could I leave a baby lying, dying, right by my feet and not pick it up and hold it and let it die in peace? I'm glad to say that the war in the north has ceased. I don't know if you know that, but the war has been going on. The LRA, the Lord's Resistance Army, have been fighting, have been mutilating, have been raping and abusing little children for 22 years. But that war is now over. Oh, I thank God so much for that. I've seen the mutilations. I've seen men with their arms cut off. We have a young girl in school. Our children that we put into school in the north, in boarding school. We have one girl with only one leg. The rebels came to her village and she tried to run away. They killed all her family, but her and her brother, they ran. Her brother got away. She tripped up and a rebel saw her. He ran after her and he just took off her leg.